Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest on everything cool. Happy Friday. It is the weekend. It is almost time for you guys to start playing all the fun things that you've been earning your money to spend on. You can now have the whole weekend to enjoy those video games and those movies and all the fun entertainment that makes life worth living. Yes? Yes, right? Yes, right, Sway. We've got an awesome show for you guys today. We've got a couple of great dudes from PopCap that have come down to join us to talk about Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. I can't wait to get into this. I've been playing the game all week, and it is very fun. But you know, and we're also going to be reviewing Maleficent. I've got some first thoughts on Luigi's Mansion 3. We're going to take a look at the RepliCade systems. We got a packed show for you. But we're going to kick things off like we always do with the rundown, and today it is dedicated to EMAC, who says it's time to nut up or shut up. Apparently a big fan of Zombieland, which is actually really good. All right, let's get started with your rundown. Now, after the poor reception of the in-game economy in last year's Black Ops 4, Activision is changing things with the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare. They've announced that there will be no loot boxes in the game. Instead, there will be an optional battle pass system similar to Fortnite or Apex Legends, allowing players to buy cosmetic items and also spend money to speed up their acquisition of new guns and gear. The last game, Black Ops 4, had loot boxes in the form of buyable reserve crates, and fans were worried that they'd return in Modern Warfare after discovering several references to them in the beta test. So apparently Activision has changed course. On top of no loot boxes, all post-launch maps and modes will be free, and they'll be available on all platforms simultaneously, so no more timed exclusives. Finally, there will be cross-platform multiplayer between the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, making this the first Call of Duty game to have it, and the game deploys next week. I can't wait to dive into this game. It's going to be massive, and I've seen a little bit of the single-player campaign. It's going to be controversial. I do know that there is still some controversy about one of the modes. I can't remember. There's a million modes in the game. Being exclusive to one platform. I think it's the PlayStation 4 for a while. What's that? 1 year, yeah. And so, you know, there's still some anger directed at Activision for that, and also all the stuff going on with the Blizzard and the China stuff. So Activision's stepping around some minefields right now, or some mines on the minefield. But you know what? I know that this team at Infinity Ward has been killing themselves to make this game, and it looks incredible. I've played the multiplayer, crazy fun. They have to bank on that, right? It has to be crazy fun. It's the single player that I'm waiting for the word to get out on. I can't wait to see some of the reviews and some of the comments because they're really going for something big here. But it looks incredible, I'll tell you that, man. The visuals in that game are stunning. And so we'll have a review on that very soon. I think that this crossplay stuff is great. I also think that there's a lot of movement in the video game industry right now to kind of shore up how to deal with microtransactions and loot boxes, and to be fair to everybody. And it's you know, kind of dangerous territory for all these game companies. You can't really blame studios for wanting to make money in their business. These are businesses after all. But I think it doesn't pay to make gamers unhappy. And I think we've had a lot of years of pissed off video gamers, and I think it's time to kind of change the tune. I think there are way too many YouTube channels out there where people have made a career out of being pissed off. The angry gamer scene has got to go away. I think the video game industry should really band together to put the angry video game commentators on YouTube out of business, or get them focused on something else. Maybe get them angry about all the superhero movies or something. I don't know. All right, let's move on. Speaking of superhero movies, it sounds like the new Batman movie is going to be riddled with supervillains. Director Matt Reeves has announced that his all-new Bat film has cast actor Paul Dano as the iconic Gotham evildoer, the Riddler. Another actor, Jonah Hill, was rumored to be in talks for the same part, but he reportedly passed. Paul Dano is mostly known for roles in smaller indie movies and serious dramas like There Will Be Blood and 12 Years a Slave, so his role as the Riddler will be his biggest yet by far. As for the Riddler himself, despite being one of Batman's most famous villains, the character hasn't appeared in a big screen movie since Batman Forever in 1995, but the less said about that, the better. The new Batman movie is set to star Twilight's Robert Pattinson as the Caped Crusader, and will also feature characters like Catwoman and Commissioner Gordon. And filming begins early next year. Paul Dano is an excellent choice for the Riddler. The guy always kind of has this nervous, intelligent energy about him in every performance that I've seen him, and he's terrific in every performance that I've seen him in. And I think he's actually a better fit for the character of the Riddler than Jonah Hill is. I think the obvious sort of connection for Jonah Hill is to think, okay, this guy would make a great Penguin. He's apparently walked away, but I think there's still wiggle room here. I think there's still an opportunity to come back and have contract negotiations. This movie's starting to sound like it's going to be incredible. There's some really, really great people surrounding this. Jeffrey Wright is supposed to be Commissioner Gordon. Zoe Kravitz is the new Catwoman. Paul Dano is the Riddler. That's great. I can't wait to hear who Two-Face is going to be. And Jonah Hill, come on, man. You don't need all the money you're asking for. Scale it back a little bit and be the best Penguin we've ever seen, okay? With all respects to Danny DeVito. All right, and it looks like another long-awaited DC movie adaptation is finally moving forward. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has announced that the long-in-development Black Adam movie will begin production in July 2020. Johnson has been attached to the project for almost a decade, and it's gone through several different filmmakers and iterations as the DC movie universe has struggled to find its footing. Black Adam is an anti-hero who's often portrayed as the arch nemesis of the do-gooder Shazam, so it's unclear if the new movie will feature Zachary Levi as its hero or if The Rock will appear in the next Shazam sequel. Of course, they've got to be planning some kind of crossover here. I mean, The Rock, he's in every movie, and some of them open really well and do quite well, and some of them struggle, and I think there is this Rock exhaustion out there. We all love him. He's awesome, right? I mean, who doesn't like this guy? He's great. But I think the smart play, because Zach Levi just impressed us all with his performance as Shazam, is to put them together and make it filled with levity and some nice comedy bits, and I think that would be really, really cool. The guy looks like a living superhero already, so I think it's pretty cool that he's going to be playing something in the DC universe. Hopefully it's great, and hopefully this next couple of years really, the Joker, even though it's not in this sort of DC movie universe as we know, still, I thought, pretty phenomenal movie. And I know it's controversial. Not everybody feels the same way, but I thought it was pretty phenomenal. And even as a piece of movie making, it was pretty remarkable. And I've heard that the Watchmen show that's hitting HBO this weekend is supposed to be pretty damn cool as well. I'll have a review on the first episode next week. So it does feel like there's some good movement happening with DC and its filmed properties. There's a lot of buzz about the crossover event with all the CW shows as well. So hopefully, this next sort of bout of DC films will be great, and that will include The Rock as Black Adam. I want to see it. I'm a fan of most of the stuff that was in Shazam. I think they did a good job with Shazam. All right, the new Switch Lite hasn't made the system light on sales. The original Switch and Switch Lite together have now sold more than 15 million units in North America, beating the worldwide lifetime sales of the last Nintendo console, the Wii U. That's according to the independent tracking firm, I'll read this. That's according to the MPD group. Worldwide, the Switch has now sold almost 40 million units, making one of the fastest-selling consoles of all time. And that is phenomenal. Congratulations to Nintendo. And I don't know if the world was predicting that when they launched the Switch. I think there was a lot of hesitation to say that this was going to take over the world, but Nintendo hit with the right product at the right time and kind of made good on a lot of the promises that the Wii U seemed to kind of project out there. It's like, oh yeah, you get a screen to play your games on, but you can't leave the house with it? That's so weird. Why is it called Wii U? I bet they're going to regret that for the rest of their lives, that one, actually. But the Switch did well right out of the gate, and it's done phenomenal because of the very, very smart software strategy. And you know what? This year has been incredible for games on the Nintendo Switch platform. So kudos to Nintendo. And in fact, we have something pretty cool for this day in Everything Cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for October 18th. On this day in 1985, the biggest revolution in gaming headed west because Nintendo released their first console, the Nintendo Entertainment System, in the United States and Canada. The system had been released in Japan 2 years earlier, where it was known as the Famicom, and for the North American launch, Nintendo completely redesigned the appearance of the system. They gave it a gray, squared-off shell that made it look more like a computer than a game console, which was the point. The home console industry had crashed a few years earlier, and Nintendo wanted to avoid the association. Another way they avoided the association with traditional consoles was by marketing the NES as more of a toy, complete with a variety of accessories like the light gun and the ROB, Robotic Operating Buddy. The biggest selling point of the NES, however, was its launch title. In North America, the system came bundled with Nintendo's latest game, Super Mario Bros., which was already a massive success in Japan and became their killer app. Other popular launch titles for the North American version included hits like Excite Bike, Ice Climber, and Golf, all of which helped make the NES a massive success. The system sold more than 1 million units in its first year, a record at the time, and the popularity helped save the entire console industry, shifting the market away from arcades and into the living room. Nintendo continued selling the NES for more than a decade and didn't discontinue production until 1995. We have a couple of great guests in the studio with us today. Grayson, to answer your question, you look at me.
Okay.
We have a conversation. This is Grayson, and this is Robert, and these guys are from PopCap, and you've just shipped a game.
Yeah, man.
It's called Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville. It's a brand new Plants vs. Zombies game. First of all, big round of applause for Plants vs. Zombies. What a franchise, right?
Cool.
Oh my God. How old is Plants vs. Zombies? How long has it been?
We've had well, I mean, you mean the whole...
Yeah, how long have we been playing Plants vs. Zombies games?
Over 10 years now.
Over 10 years?
Yeah. As far as the Garden Warfare series, it's about 6 or 7 years, I think.
Yeah, we just celebrated anniversary for that, I think.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Battle for Neighborville, is it a direct sequel for Garden Warfare, or is it something a little bit different than that? What are you guys sort of pegging this as?
It's definitely something a bit different.
Yeah.
You know, if you played the PvE stuff, that's a big departure from the previous games.
Yes.
And something else we really wanted to do with this one was kind of separate it with the way we're doing characters. You know, the way we're doing the different modes and stuff like that. So we're trying to make it, definitely trying to make it different, and also trying to focus on the battle for Neighborville. The other games kind of went all over the world and did some different things. We wanted to kind of ground it back and make sure the entire conflict is about this one area of the world.
Okay, very cool. Now, what do you guys do at PopCap? What's your job?
Go ahead.
So I'm one of the designers. I've been lucky to be able to have my hands in all sorts of different pies.
Yeah.
In this specific game, I worked on all the multiplayer game modes, as well as our PvE game mode. I also built Mount Steep, which is one of our PvE areas. And I also did a lot of our gnome collectible puzzle content for people out there that hate the puzzles. You can direct that at me.
I found the gnome shrine. I had to go all over the town. I was in the suburban area. I forget the town center.
Yep.
And I got underneath the sewer line and everything, and I was like, oh my God, I found this thing. It was like a real
maybe
moment.
a few more little secret
there's
areas
a lot
for
of
you to
those.
discover.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been playing. Robert, what do you do on the game?
I'm the game director for the game.
Right on.
I was mostly involved with the PvE stuff. And I'm also heavily involved in all the live services stuff going forward.
Okay. Well, I got the review code from EA, I don't know, 5 days ago. So I've been jumping in a little bit every day, and I've been playing with my daughter and my nephew. So it's super colorful and cutesy and kid-friendly, even though everybody's trying to kill each other like crazy in this thing.
Vanquish each other.
Vanquish, yes. I've been getting a lot of vanquishing.
Yeah.
But it is... there's a lot in this game. Like, it feels like you guys are trying to compete with any shooter out there right now. It's not just a kid-friendly type of experience at all, right? There's a lot of depth going on.
Yeah, we have a lot of different modes. We also introduced a new mode recently called Battle Arena, which is you know, another kind of competitive mode.
Yep.
And you know, we've always done the PvP stuff really well.
Yep.
This year we really wanted to also bring the PvE stuff up to the same kind of level, so we put a lot of effort into that. And then to your point, like the new characters, like we got some really interesting characters. We've got the Oak and Acorn, like these team play characters we think other games haven't done before, where you can combine a bunch of acorns together or space cadets and stuff like that. And so, yeah, there's a whole bunch of new stuff. You're right, the game is massive. And I think when we were building it, we had no idea it was going to be this big, too.
Was there ever a, a path that you guys might have been taking where it was like a full, just like a single-player campaign with a story and stuff, and then a multiplayer experience? Because it feels like there is narrative, that you guys built a lot of story around all of this stuff. Or was it always a little more open-ended, sort of, getting you up to speed with what multiplayer would feel even in the PvE area?
We definitely went back and forth.
Yeah.
There was always going to be multiplayer, and there was always going to be PvE for sure.
Oh, there always was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the question was, how much PvE? And as we started developing the PvE, it became a lot bigger as we realized we really wanted to kind of blow this out and make it really special.
Yeah.
And with that said, though, we also didn't want to have like this kind of big narrative. So every map has its own story. Even the multiplayer maps, they actually all tell a story.
Yeah.
And then the PvE stuff, you can play like if you go into Town Center or Mount Steep like you were doing, that has its own contained story.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be kind of piecemeal, almost like you on Netflix. You want to watch a couple episodes tonight. Cool, you can kind of get that whole kind of story structure, and then you can go play a different PvE region later on. And you get a different take.
That's awesome.
To
Now,
kind of expand on that, we built a lot of different versions of the game through development, and then as we'd play them together and iterate on them, we kind of decided what's the most fun version of this game that we can come up with.
Yeah, and I guess one of the challenges that you have is that this is a character-rich universe, right? And it started as a tower defense kind of franchise, and it was all about all of these different units. So if you chose one character to focus a story on, it's kind of removing the access to everybody that you've got as a pillar for the
That's
franchise.
one of our big pillars is play the game the way you want.
Right.
So if you want to play as one character, you can do everything as that character. If you really like this other way, or you want to play, couch co-op with your brother or your sister, your kid, you can play the whole game that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So walk us into designing the characters, because obviously there's a 2D, sort of history of Plants vs. Zombies as a strategy type of experience. Do you work off of those initial concepts and those initial pencil drawings, or do you kind of keep embellishing and keep building from the ground up every time you take another swing at the game?
So I think for this game, because like some of the earlier games, we had some characters that were pulled more directly from the top-down games, like you said.
Yeah.
And this game, it was, the focus was what's gameplay first? What kind of gameplay holes are we trying to fill? What kind of gameplay needs? Take like Oak and Acorn, for example. We really wanted a game where, I got my own son. I want to play with him. When he was younger, he wasn't, couldn't move around as easily.
Yeah.
And being on top of Acorn being on top of Oak made that kind of like this perfect kind of turret mode. But now that my son's older, he's way better than I am. So when we started these characters, it was basically what's the gameplay first, figuring that out, and then from there let's kind of concept out what kind of plants or zombies kind of make sense for those characters.
Yeah, I guess you have a lot of tools in the toolbox. You've got lots of history with characters. So you guys just did it, how did you start with just sort of, boxes and shapes?
Yeah.
Just got everything kind of playing and feeling good, and then put the characters to that?
I think it was kind of a mix, because we definitely did have a couple characters that we were like, we know we want to try and make something that fits this kind of character from the mobile franchise.
Right.
But in a lot of cases, it was like, okay, we've made a bunch of just like block characters with a bunch of cool abilities. What's the most fun? Okay, now how do we create a cool theme and narrative wrapper around this character? How does, if he's got a dash ability, well, what does that really mean for that kind of character?
Yeah, it seems to me that it's you have defensive capabilities and you can drop the turrets and stuff, but it isn't as front and center as it was with Garden Warfare.
That's right.
It feels like you guys shifted over into a little bit more accessible for shooter fans this time. Was that deliberate?
That was definitely deliberate, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we want to make sure we appeal to young kids, adults as well, and make sure everyone can be competitive in the game.
I have to ask, is Fortnite a target? Is the success of Fortnite something that you guys said, well, we can shift into that direction with this brand?
I don't think so. I mean, to be honest, Fortnite Battle Royale, we never really felt Battle Royale was the right fit for our brand right now.
Sure, yeah.
Plants don't kill plants, zombies don't kill zombies. So
right.
it wasn't the right thing. We always wanted to make our own kind of game.
Yeah.
We're big fans of Fortnite, play that all the time, but definitely that was not something we were trying to replicate with this at all.
Okay. Yeah, this is a big EA game. It's a big franchise, and obviously it's in the news. I talk about loot boxes and microtransactions pretty much every episode of EP. I know people are going to be curious about the way the economy works in the game, and if they're going to. Well, first of all, it's not a full-priced game.
Correct.
It's a little bit less expensive. It's about $29 or $39.99 in the States.
I think it's $39.99. Yeah.
In the States, okay, so it's a little bit less. But then, what about the access to content? Is that something that people are going to have to keep buying to access stuff, or how are you guys doing that?
So when you buy the game, like it's all the PvE content, all the multiplayer content, PvP content, it's all there.
Yep.
We have this thing inside the game called the Mystery Wardatron 9000. It's the machine.
Yes.
So as you play the game, however you want, you're going to collect coins, and you go up to this machine and you put your coins in, and it's going to pop out some piece of customization.
Right.
And everything in that machine is, you bought the game, it's all yours. This is just the mechanism you can get it out. You can't use real world money to get it. There are no paid loot boxes in this game at all.
Cool.
There won't be. So that's that's a big thing for us.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But it's a live game, though, right?
Yes.
You guys are launching with it's really crazy big, and that's why I haven't reviewed it yet, because I keep sort of uncovering new things every time I get into it. But you're launching with 3 different areas.
There's 4 PvE regions.
4 PvE regions.
Yep.
Okay, why don't you run through those for us?
Yeah. So there's 2 for plants and 2 for zombies.
Okay.
There's Mount Steep, Weirding Woods, and then there's Town Center for the plants and zombies.
Okay.
Each of those regions has its own series of narrative quests, its own boss. You have to find chests. You got all the gnomes that Grayson here built and all the crazy challenges.
These are big worlds, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not just like a map. It's like these are worlds where it feels like a bunch of maps all stuck together in a way.
It feels like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It was bigger than we intended to build.
Yeah.
For sure.
We definitely ran into like, okay, this is where we've built this area and we've committed to saying we're going to do this.
Yeah.
But also we have this really cool idea, so I'm just going to add this cave over in this corner.
Yes.
And then another one.
Yeah,
and
there's a
another
lot
one.
of verticality. You'll see mountains, and you can climb all the way up to the mountains, and then you'll you'll get into boss battles in the PvE. You can also go on bounty hunts where you're chasing down some big guys.
That's
I've been
right.
playing. I've been having fun.
That's awesome.
I've been getting my butt kicked a little bit, but doing some killing of zombies. I've been mostly on the plant side.
Yeah.
And then so that's the PvE.
Yeah.
But then multiplayer is a huge. I mean, is it the bigger chunk of the game? Do you think, or is PvE the bigger part of it?
It kind of depends. I would say they're probably both about the same, like both from effort standpoint.
Okay.
And that, by the way, that's not all the PvE. There's still ops, which is our kind of like endless kind of you get waves of enemies and you get bosses. So we have that.
Okay.
But on the PvP side, you're right. Then we have classic Team Vanquish, which is plants versus zombies get the most vanquishes. We've got our mix modes, which is a bunch of other modes like Suburbanation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We've got our classic Turf Takeover, which is objective based. You kind of travel to different objectives, and then the big new one is Battle Arena, which is my favorite. Which is we bring it down to 4 versus 4. It's a best of 7 series, so you have to win 4 games to win the match. But after every single game, you can't use the characters from the previous games you've used before.
Oh, okay.
So your
Previous rounds.
Yeah.
This is a little bit like gunfight in Call of Duty.
Oh, I haven't played that yet.
In Modern Warfare.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. The other thing I want to say is we also have weekly events that are going to keep rolling over.
Right, and you're in the Halloween world right now, right? Like,
so that's our
monthly
festival.
events.
Yeah.
But the weekly event is like a multiplayer playlist that you can jump in.
Okay.
And each week that's going to change. And I can't say what's coming up, but we have some interesting twists on our other game modes coming out there, and we're just going to keep adding stuff.
And more worlds and things too as we go, or is that TBA?
Bit of a TVA. I mean,
Okay.
we will be introducing new levels for sure.
Yeah.
But what those are, can't talk about quite yet.
Okay, all right. Well, talk to me a little bit about the players of Plants vs. Zombies, because obviously if you play the tower defense game, that's a very different game on mobile than this kind of an experience, and this is even different than Garden Warfare. Are you kind of targeting, no pun intended, sort of the parent crowd now? Is that a big part of the demo for a game like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of like so the rating's like E10 for everyone.
Yeah.
And we want this to be enjoyed by everyone.
Yeah.
I make the comparison to like if you watch like a really good Pixar movie, as a kid you're going to enjoy it, as a parent you're going to enjoy it for different reasons.
Sure.
And I feel like we're trying to do the same thing here. We kind of have content that can be enjoyed by different levels of skill level and different types of people.
That's awesome.
I often see comments on like Reddit or Twitter or something like that. People that say, I picked this game up for my kid, and he played it for a while and really enjoyed it. And then I tried it with my wife, and now we've been glued to it for 6 months.
Yeah, I guess that must happen too. And I bet there's probably crossover from hardcores that play something like Call of Duty, that play this as a, they're still sort of using mechanics they're familiar with, but it's kind of a way to unwind in a way.
Some of my friends, when they come to check it out, they're like, oh yeah, I'll come check out this game you're working on. And then they play it and they go, actually, this is really deep.
Yeah, it is really deep. And you used Frostbite for this one. Is this the first Plants vs. Zombies on the Frostbite engine, or have you been doing it for a while?
Doing it for a while. We definitely did a big rewrite of our engine this year. We wanted to improve the graphics tremendously, make some bigger levels and stuff like that. So there was a huge rewrite for this year.
Okay. Any Battlefield Easter eggs or anything like that? Any other EA shooter, Medal of Honor type stuff that pops up in this game?
No other games like that. There are definitely Easter eggs. People have found some of them in the game already, but not all of them. And I won't say what they are, but yes, there's definitely stuff in there.
You guys are vets. You both worked in the games industry for a while. What is it about working on a Plants vs. Zombies game that's fun and special and makes you still want to go to work even though you've shipped the game and you're just you've launched it, now the work really begins?
Yeah, and go ahead.
For me, it's the creative freedom. So I've worked on, I don't want to say specifically, but I've worked on some projects in the past where we have a very specific IP and we have a lot of constraints. Whereas working on PvZ, sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night with a fever dream and I'll jot something down, email myself, and come to work the next day and be like, space gumball something, I don't even know what the heck that is, but we'll prototype something, and if it's fun, it goes in the game.
That's cool.
Right? So it's just, and the people have been just super fun to work on with this project.
I could sum it up with, we had this one meeting where myself, lead level designer, art director, lead writer, we spent an hour just talking about how a stink bomb should work. And that's the kind of stuff you can only do in Plants vs. Zombies.
That's
you can't
cool.
do that with other franchises, for sure.
Yeah, and the stink bombs are brutal in this game. I got trapped in one of those things. You guys are not messing around with those stink bombs.
It's a real stink bomb.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. You guys got any questions for Team PopCap? Yeah, Sway.
Snapdragon.
Snapdragon?
Easy. First one I mastered.
That's the flamethrower one, yeah, he's great.
Mine's definitely
awesome.
Acorn, because again, he transforms into the oak, and then you can have up to 3 other acorns on top of that oak. So you can have a 4-player kind of tank vehicle moving around. It's a lot of fun.
This one is it's a great one from Marco A, and I guess it's akin to Star Wars. Will there ever be peace between plant and zombies kind? Ceasefire could be brokered by Commander Shepard, maybe.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I mean, who knows what the future holds for peace between this war? I mean, it is called Battle for Neighborville for a reason, so who knows?
Yeah, I guess you can go back and forth. Now, this is this brings up a good point, because obviously this is a franchise that has cross-pollinated across many things.
Good job. Good job. You're clearly a dad.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the first time that joke's ever been made.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Is there other stuff coming with this? Is there a comic series? Is there animated things? Is a toy line? What's kind of coming ancillary wise to?
The one thing I can talk about is there is a comic that every one of our games so far has had a comic attached to it.
Yeah.
And there is a comic that I'm not sure exactly what the release date is. It might even be out now or soon, but there is a comic attached to this game.
They talked about that on the live feed today, and I wish I remember exactly what they said, but it's soon, coming out soon.
That is cool.
Beyond that, I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay, got you. Now, obviously, the mobile game is still super popular. When you launch a huge sort of console and PC experience like this, do you tie it into the mobile game at all, or other than just promotion, or do you send them assets or units or anything like that they incorporate into the mobile game?
I think right now we really wanted to focus just on making this game.
I'm not trying to give you guys more work. I'm just curious.
But I mean that'd be some great stuff to do for sure. Yeah.
Jamie Andrews asks, what are your favorite things about the creative process in making Plants vs. Zombies? I kind of just asked that, Jamie. You just tuned in, didn't you, buddy? this guy has good thoughts about some of the meetings that he's had, and this guy gets to have crazy fever dreams, and then they make them at work.
Stink bombs.
Stink bombs. That's great. Question, I really love Plants vs. Zombies 2 for Android. Will there be a number 3 from Ramses the Great? You guys can't answer that, can you?
I can. That's a different team altogether.
Yeah.
So
do you guys have big Plants vs. Zombies meetings with the whole collective?
We do have meetings where we have, with the, I've definitely talked to the people on the other teams for sure.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's, with our game specifically, it was like we really wanted to focus on our title being its own thing.
Yeah.
So, and to your point, I can't really speak for other teams and what they're working on.
Fair enough. Sure. Fair enough. Garden Warfare was the gift that kept on giving, wasn't it?
How so?
Well, just it was a big success,
yeah.
And it kept growing and growing and growing, right?
Yeah.
There's still lots of people.
We even surprised ourselves a little bit with how popular it ended up becoming, which is great for us.
There's still a lot of people that play too. It's definitely still very popular. Yeah.
Do you guys have suspicions of why it connects so much with people? Yeah, because when I remember, I've been covering the biz for so long. I remember, of course, when they launched the announcement that this was coming, and all of us journalists were like, "What the heck? What is happening?" We're watching a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter with plants and zombies.
Something I always see come back over and over from fans is they really enjoy that it's just a casual game that can jump in, play with some friends, have some fun. It's not high stress.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm going in and I'm playing ranked and I lost a game and I just undid all my progress from last week and now I'm stressed. It's just, you jump in and maybe a pea shooter wearing a fluffy chickpea outfit blows you up, but whatever, I respawn, I jump back in.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and I feel, it must feel a little bit like that to make the game too, right?
Yeah.
Because you know that there is a self-referential and self, not deprecating, but you don't take yourself too seriously in any of this stuff.
Yeah, you definitely try not to. I mean, you're trying to have a lot of fun.
I've never seen him take himself serious.
Sam IM111 asks, how do you retain the essence of Plants vs. Zombies when adapting the IP into new genres? That's a good question.
That's interesting. I mean, I guess I look at the PvZ franchise. It's really about the characters, and I think you can use the characters in a lot of different genres potentially, and there's a lot of breadth to it because of that. So I think it just opens up a lot of possibilities. Each different plant has its clear own abilities. We're so lucky to have that. A lot of franchises they have a lot of characters maybe that feel the same.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it actually our job really easy in that sense.
Yeah.
And I would love to see it, to expand beyond just what we have now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was just gonna give a shout out to our character team, our animation team. They've done such an incredible job of bringing these characters to life.
They did.
It really feels like it's almost like a Pixar movie in terms of quality of the squashing, the stretching of the face as they run around and shoot. And
yeah, it's really impressive. It just you're overwhelmed when you turn it on. There's a lot of different directions to go and lots of characters that don't quite know what to do, but you're having a good time right away, which I guess is intrinsic to the design of this one, right?
Yeah, it was
one of our goals.
Yeah,
for sure. Get people into the game right away, let them choose what they want to do right away, and don't put a lot of stress on it. If you happen to be vanquished in the PvE stuff, there's no real penalty there.
Yeah.
We want you to keep going and explore that stuff at your own pace.
And the rewards are fast and furious in this game, man. They keep coming. Are there plans for more new DLC characters in the future from Faramer?
Can't really talk about that too much.
Yeah.
I'd like to, but can't really talk about that too much. At some later point, we'll talk more about our plans down the road.
Okay, we'll have you guys back.
Yeah.
Are any of because I know that Plants vs. Zombies, there was a Seattle connection of PopCap and there was a Vancouver connection. I don't know the roots of where Plants vs. Zombies started. Did it start in Vancouver or did it start?
The top-down version, from my understanding, started in the Seattle studio.
Okay.
And so that's where the 2D games are made.
And so they continue to be made down in the Seattle
That's
area.
correct, yeah.
Do you have any of the team members that worked on the original Plants vs. Zombies now working with you guys here? Or?
We have people who worked in the original Garden Warfare game still here, but
Okay.
not the original top-down one.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, very cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Guys, you guys have made a very fun game. I'll have more to talk about with Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville next week, but it has been a pleasure to have you both on.
Pleasure, man.
Awesome.
And I
Really
hope you
appreciate
come
it.
back. And Grayson actually went to this school here at the Vancouver Film School, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I graduated in class 08, which was 11 and a half years ago. And I'm also a mentor for the design program.
Game design program.
Yeah.
So cool. So you guys, you can come and watch interviews like this live anytime you want to at the VFS Cafe at 390 West Hastings. Thank you both. Good luck with the game, and I'll be playing.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. Now, another Made in Vancouver game is making a lot of waves out there, and I've got some first thoughts on Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh no.
Just in time for Halloween, Nintendo is releasing Luigi's Mansion 3 for Nintendo Switch, and I've had some hands-on time with the game. I can tell you a little bit about it, but I haven't played enough that I can give you a full review of the title. This was the game that I was most excited about coming out of E3 this year. This and Obsidian's The Outer Worlds. Those two were kind of neck and neck for me. I feel like after playing this for a while that my anticipation and excitement for this game was warranted. What I recognize about playing this game so far, though, is that it definitely follows the foundations and the principles laid down by the previous couple of Luigi's Mansion games. I loved the 3DS title that Next Level built for us, by the way. It's still one of the best 3DS games that you can play. This game makes me want to go back and play that again, which is great. And that's testament to the pedigree that Next Level has. They've been a solid developer all the way along. But Luigi's Mansion 3 is something very, very special. It's a beautiful game, perhaps one of Nintendo's most cartoon-like experiences that they've ever crafted, and that's saying a lot because they've made a lot of games that look like playable cartoons. The animations that we see on Luigi's face as he's frightened by ghosts, and also the ghost animations and the boss battles, they're all wonderful and completely endearing. Of course, you've got your flashlight, and you've got the extra flashlight, sort of interdimensional flashlight that allows you to see ghostly things that are at first invisible to your naked eye. And there's lots of great tricks with the mirrors in the mansion and lots of little secret areas, which at first you feel like, how the heck am I going to get there? And then very Metroid-like later on, you'll have the thing that will allow you to get there. You get keys and you get elevator buttons that will allow you to go up and down inside of this hotel, which is the new mansion that we're exploring this time. Luigi becomes an important ingredient in this game, allowing people to play cooperatively. What I've been doing, though, is playing the game on my own and bouncing back and forth between Luigi and Luigi when I need to solve puzzles. This is a game that will force you to slow down and look at every single element in the background, every crack in the wall. This is a puzzle game and it's an adventure game. And although there are connections to some of the action platformy type stuff that we've done before with a lot of Mario and Luigi adventures, this is absolutely a game. It's like a survival horror game, in a cartoony sense, but you have to kind of use your wits and your puzzle solving skills to survive and to defeat the ghosts and to defeat the ghost bosses. It's really not a game that you're going to speed through, and I noticed that when I was playing with my daughter was watching me play. She was on the clock, right, because it was almost bedtime, so she was like, hurry up, get to the objective, and that's not what you want to do in this game. You don't want to get to the objective. You want to kind of wind your way to the objective, and you want to hoover up every single object that's in there, all the silverware and the coats hanging on racks and everything, the cloths that are on top of cars and the shower curtains and the bedspreads and like the mice, everything. You're just sucking everything up, and you're trying to collect all kinds of loot, which will come into play a little bit later into the game.
Got it.
You meet up with familiar friends again, and you, of course, unlock all kinds of great new, skills and abilities and tools that help you deal with the rest of the different puzzles that are going to come your way and some of the boss fights that are going to come your way. It's really, really fun, and you can tell that these guys just, in partnership with Nintendo, they worked overtime to make this game something really special. I do wonder, though, if you're playing it with somebody else, how much patience they're going to have while you deal with every interactive object that's on the screen. Because you can interact with every single thing that you see on screen. All the balls on a pool table, you can blow them into the holes and then get a little, reward for playing billiards inside of the mansion, which is crazy. Definitely cute to see that if you're just an observer, but I think you're like, okay, let's go, let's move on. But as the player, it's like you've got a toy dollhouse or something, and every single piece is movable or pushable, or you can suck it towards you or spit it back out, including the pumpkins and some of the big melons and things that you'll see. You'll use that as part of your puzzle-solving tricks. It's really remarkable. There's also multiplayer in this game, but I haven't had time to play any of that yet. I'll talk about that stuff with the full review, which will be coming soon. But it's cool that that's also an extra element in here. Again, it's one of these games coming out in 2019 that this has got to be, if not the most remarkable year for Nintendo, one of the most remarkable years for this incredible game company.
Oh, yeah.
This is a ton of fun. I can't give you a score. I haven't played it enough that I can review the whole thing. I intend to finish this game, though, because it's completely addictive. I'll have much more to say about Luigi's Mansion 3, but I feel like Nintendo's done it again. It's been a busy week for movies for me. I went and saw Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. I always want to say Maleficent. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, starring Angelina Jolie, Elle Fanning, and one of my faves, Michelle Pfeiffer, is in this, and she's terrific. This movie really surprised me. I liked the first movie. I thought it was a great kind of star vehicle for Angelina Jolie, and it had some great production values. I wasn't really expecting too much out of a sequel, though. I was like, oh, well, didn't they do that story already? They already did, like, the Sleeping Beauty, but the flip of it, and it was clever and cool. With this one, it was more about the universe building and the world building, and clearly everybody involved in making this movie, including the director, and I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Joachim Roning, has been watching a lot of Game of Thrones, because this is almost like Game of Thrones for tweens, this movie. It's loaded with incredible visuals and, castles that get attacked and flying characters that make me excited for that inevitable Hawkman movie that we're going to get, or maybe some kind of a remake of that awesome Flash Gordon movie from the 80s. Or a saga movie. Anyways, my mind was wandering. But the movie itself was beautiful, and I actually had an interesting thing happen to me when I was seeing the film. I bought a ticket for the earlier showing. I watched it this morning, actually, or earlier this afternoon, and it was a 3D showing. And I don't normally like to go and see movies in 3D because usually they kind of tamper with the brightness. And when you put on those glasses, it affects the visual kind of quality of the experience. But honestly, this is a movie to go and see in 3D. Halfway through the movie, the fire alarm goes off and everybody gets evacuated. I'm like, oh my God, I guess I can't review this thing today. And then it's a false alarm, so I go back. But in the theater right next door to the 3D one was the 2D one, and it was half an hour later, so I got to catch up on stuff that I had missed. Yeah, half an hour earlier, or I don't know. It was playing 30 minutes later, so I got to catch up on all the stuff that I missed in the story and also evaluate the film in 2D, and it's still beautiful in 2D, for sure. It's filled with color and filled with, creatures in every direction. It's about the impending war that Michelle Pfeiffer's character wants to manifest between the humans and the creatures of the moor, all these fairies, and Angelina Jolie, we get to learn, is a dark fae, and she's part of this other kind of, I guess, race of individuals out there that just hasn't been able to get along with humans, and partially due to the attitudes of characters like Michelle Pfeiffer. And so we see everything kind of, accelerate and eventually crescendo in an epic battle scene. That it really felt like something much more colorful and cartoony and definitely theme park friendly. You can tell that the machine around this movie is, let's keep these, this property and these characters alive so that we can, eventually have them be characters that people will meet at Disneyland, at Disney World. And it's really easy to be cynical about it. But, God, it was so artfully and tastefully crafted. I was really impressed with the effect shots. There's basically an effect shot in every scene. And, people like Warwick Davis and Chiwetel Ejiofor, there's some great, supporting actors and fantastic performers that will pop up and surprise you with their heartfelt performances. But they've got rendered effects all around them, whether they've got wings on them or ears that move or little, fairies and living creatures that are flying in and out. And especially if you've got 3D glasses, they're flying in and out of space. And it's mesmerizing. It was truly, truly wonderful. Performances were pretty damn solid as well. Angelina Jolie clearly loves this character and what it provides for her as not just monetarily, but as a performer. She gets to kind of, chew the scenery a little bit as this overtly evil sorceress, with incredible power. Both in the magical effects that she has, but also just in the strength of her characterization. And it was a hoot for me to see Michelle Pfeiffer be kind of, spoiler alert, the bad guy in this movie. And she's great. She's relishing it, and she's always been one of my favorite actors. I think she's wonderful. She's still my favorite Catwoman. Nobody's going to be better than her as Catwoman. And I just had fun with it. And I was really surprised. I guess part of my enjoyment of this movie, in all honesty, was that I had very low expectations for it. I did not expect it to be as big and as well crafted as it was. Epic scenes, like lots and lots of extras. The castle stuff looked incredible. The forest stuff looks incredible. The sort of cave areas that we visit, the land of the dark fae, also beautiful. Reminiscent of some stuff that I saw in How to Train Your Dragon and those movies. You know what? I think this movie's pretty damn wonderful. It's a great sequel, especially if you go in not expecting the world out of it. I was really entertained and very impressed. And I don't know if this is going to be the end for the franchise. I guess the box office will paint that picture for us. But if you like the first Maleficent, and if you like Angelina Jolie or any of these other performers, I think you're going to have a very good time. I'm going to give Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, an 8 out of 10. Okay, you guys, we've got another 16-bit superhero segment for you. Let's take a look. It's time for another exciting segment of 16-bit superheroes, and if you know me, you know that I love superhero video games. I haven't played all of them, though, and one of my recent obsessions is to go back and collect a whole bunch of old 16-bit cartridges, and I've been playing them and reviewing them, and the caveat here is that I'm reviewing them as I'm playing them today, not through the rearview mirror or through the lens of nostalgia, not because I love these games back in the day. A lot of them are new, and actually today, the one that I'm playing is The Tick. This came out in 1994. It was published by Fox Interactive. The developer, I believe, was Software Creations. I am a fan of The Tick, somewhat. I'm not a super fan. I don't know all of the details, but I've seen episodes of both of the live-action series. I've seen some of the cartoons. I met and interviewed Ben Edlund, who was the creator of The Tick, or is the creator of The Tick, way back at a Comic-Con from a year I can't remember, but he was a super nice guy. I've enjoyed the zaniness and the sense of humor around this property, and I thought it would translate quite well to the game, and I was pleasantly surprised by the graphic introduction. The chapter sort of opening screens popped off the screen quite well. The pixel art is quite nice. The animations on the Tick as a character, pretty darn solid. And then the repetition set in. You start off fighting ninjas, but you fight like black ninjas and white ninjas and green ninjas and blue ninjas, and it's just like repeat and rinse and repeat. You're doing that again and again and again. Sometimes you're jumping off rooftops and trying to avoid nunchucks and spears and shurikens and all kinds of things that are hurling at you. If you do happen to fall, you might go into what they're calling the little subplot areas where you're fighting some boss characters from the Tick lore. It was so repetitive right out of the get-go that it was kind of driving me insane. Even these little subplot boss fights, there wasn't much animation to the characters that you were fighting, and the Tick honestly only has a punch and a kick and a jump and a kick kind of, so you're just doing the same stuff over and over again. So I was beating up these subplot bosses. One of them had a chainsaw, I can't remember all their names, and it got stuck in an animation, and I was just pummeling this character. It didn't even move, and then it's dead, and then you're back up on the roof and you're avoiding obstacles trying to get to the edge. And I thought, okay, well, this is starting to rot my brain very early on. And I was grinding through, playing it dry, trying to just see how far I could get with this. And I got to, I don't know, about 5 or 6 levels of the same kind of routine. And then I thought, okay, this is slowly killing me. I've got to do something here to change things up. I've got to figure something out here so I'm not so excruciatingly bored. So I did what anybody would do in that situation. I looked on the internet for a cheat code. I got one. Level Select is my friend. I was able to bounce and see that this game really doesn't get better. It gets a little more interesting visually. There's a lot of great background art, lots of great colors, and lots of good pixel creations. And also, I have to say this, lots of cameos from Tick characters that if you are a super fan, you're going to be delighted to see. Batman comes down and he's your buddy. You have these ally sort of moments where you get a pal that jumps down and helps you for a second, where they're just kind of taped to your back, and then the Tick is punching and kicking, and he's got somebody strapped to his back, and sometimes they animate. In the case of Batman, didn't do anything. I was pressing all the buttons. He just sort of stood there and walked around with me. It was weird. I had another ally character named Samurai Paul who did have a sword and was hacking and slashing at the different colored ninjas. I mean, it worked, but it was very weird. It wasn't like there was an autonomous AI creation buddy that was helping me out running around and doling out damage. But it's nice that there are these little cameos. There are these little characters. Every once in a while you see one of the Tick superheroes fall out of the sky and crash land on the rooftop or something. And you're going to be fighting, a lot of different palette-swapped clowns. You're going to be fighting these idea men, which look like robots in gangster suits. There are the occasional interesting bad guy boss fight situations, but for the most part, you are going to be pressing punch and kick and jump, and you're going to be fighting hordes and hordes and hordes of the same bad guys. One of the biggest problems is that the game just goes on too long. For the amount of content that is actually provided on this cartridge, it's just repeated way too often, and it's a real detraction from any kind of enjoyment here. I think that if it was cut in half and it would feel short, at least you wouldn't fight these same things over and over again, particularly because the Tick himself doesn't have that many moves. It's not like Final Fight. It's not like even the Batman Returns Super Nintendo game that Konami made out there. There are lots of great brawlers for both the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and this one doesn't live up to the best in the genre, and it certainly doesn't live up to the best in the 16-bit superhero titles that I've been playing. I was extraordinarily disappointed, but I think that there's an attraction here because the Tick isn't as popular as Spider-Man or Superman or Batman, so there aren't that many Tick things that one can buy if they're a fan. So that scarcity, that rarity of collected work like this is kind of interesting. There's a pull to collect it. I'm glad that I own it. I doubt I'll ever play it again, though, but I played it for you, and all I can say is thank God for cheat codes on the internet. I'm going to give the Tick a 3 out of 10. Not too often that I get to review arcade machines on this show, but thanks to our friends at New Wave Toys and their RepliCade line, I do get to talk about arcade machines. Now, they recently sent me the Street Fighter II Championship Edition arcade machine, but it's actually an arcade system because... Oh, we've got Kurt sitting here beside me. Thank you, Blake. Kurt is playing Street Fighter, and I'll ask him what he thinks of the game in a second here. But the Street Fighter II Championship Edition arcade, you can actually get a version of this. I don't know if this is the only way that you can get it. You might be able to get it without this extra device, but it comes with an extra controller. It's a 2-player game, so you'd want to be able to play it with somebody else. And it has USB inputs on the back so that you can plug this in and play 2-player fighting games with a buddy. You You can also plug in regular controllers into those USB ports in the back of this thing, and you can store the controller in the back of the cabinet. The idea behind these cabinets, they've sent me two, Tempest and Street Fighter II Championship Edition, is that they're collector's items for sure, but they're fully playable with scale. They're 1/6 scale models of the parts and the systems, and the Street Fighter II game actually comes with the manual, the arcade operator's manual, so you can flip the switches on the controller and adjust the settings the way that you would want to play Championship Edition. There's also another version of Street Fighter II on here. You get Super Street Fighter II Turbo on there with its gameplay and character allotments. And it's really remarkable. They've got lots of great details like the coin slots. And if you press in on the coin slots, they obviously don't take real coins, but you can press in on them and they'll be adding extra lives basically, so you can start the game over again. You can also flip open the where the coins would be, and you can store stuff in there if you want. I guess a token or a quarter or whatever you want to do. But I got to tell you, like the build quality is pretty damn impressive on both of these little mini arcade systems. They feel great. It's got the functional kind of switch joystick controls that you want. It's based, super micro little tiny buttons, but they feel solid. They feel like what you would feel tapping on an arcade button, just shrunk down. It's almost like these have been put into like a shrink ray system or something like that. It's really, really impressive. And also the cabinetry and everything like that's made out of wood. They actually sound pretty damn good for these, the size of the speakers. They sound accurate to what you would hear in an arcade. Obviously, it's a little bit shrunk down. And you can play the game. It is a bit weird to put your hands, your big hands in front of this tiny screen and play the game that way. So honestly, I preferred starting a two-player game, letting the first match, fade away, and then playing on this controller away from the screen, which you can do. And the fact that you can plug in a couple of extra controllers into the Street Fighter cabinet and play with regular controllers if you want is pretty damn impressive. You can also kick back to the operator menu and adjust stuff so that this plays exactly the way that you want to. Tempest, you have less functionality that way, but one of the great things that they did with Tempest, and I'll flip this around here a little bit, is they gave you the paddle controls of this classic game. I'm actually a bigger fan of Tempest than I am of Street Fighter II. I know that's sacrilege, but Tempest was such a landmark game for me. It was a vector-based game back in the 80s, and it just blew my mind. It was, it kind of created a pseudo 3D effect, and I love it. Obviously, didn't have the staying power that Street Fighter did, but Jeff Minter created these fantastic odes to Tempest with Tempest 2000 on the Atari Jaguar, and most recently you can play Tempest 4000. It's a shame that Tempest doesn't have the more modern Minter versions available on here. I imagine that people out there with some hacking skills could probably get into the OS of this and put some other stuff on there if they wanted to. But the fact that you get the 80s arcade game and it's wonderful and it's accurate and the cabinetry art is all there. It's all lit up. I think that the cabinet of the Tempest machine looks cooler to me, but I totally get that more people, probably more people, are going to fawn over the whole Street Fighter thing. I love Street Fighter as well. It's just the Tempest really speaks to me. So I think the coolest thing about these little mini cabinets is their collectability and the way that they look. You can certainly have fun on them, but I feel like the way that you would have fun on them is that they're on your desk or they're on a bookshelf behind your desk, and when you've got a few minutes, when you're not working on schoolwork or work, you take it off the shelf and you have a quick little game of something that you love, something that really kind of speaks to you. And then other than that, it would be standing up maybe with other action figures or something like that, and it just looks so damn cool, especially when you've got a couple of them, or two or three of them, and they're all lit up, so you have like this little functioning mini arcade. They've done an amazing job with that. It's really, you can tell that these were crafted with love, and they were crafted with, in partnership with the rights holders and the people that want to see this stuff done properly. To get these machines, though, it's not inexpensive. The Street Fighter 2 cabinet comes with the controller for $120 US, about $170, I think, when you do all the conversions. I just looked it up on Activision or on Amazon. Tempest is a little bit less because it doesn't have all the features of Street Fighter, and you also don't have to get an extra controller with Tempest as well. They are incredible, though, and I think of the younger me that went to arcades and freaked out over games like this, and they were all sort of the building blocks that got me on the way to actually creating Electric Playground was falling in love with video games this way. To think that the younger version of me would ever one day have little miniaturized versions of these arcade machines just blows my mind. I think New Wave and RepliCade have done an amazing job with these, and I'm definitely keeping my eyes out for other arcade systems that I love with them, and I'll report back my thoughts on how they have fared, and presumably they'll keep learning how to manufacture these things with even greater detail, and they'll just keep getting better, as everything does in the video game industry. But so far, I think they've done an amazing job with these. They're not cheap, and I know that they're not for everybody, but I think they're wonderful. I would give the Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition arcade machine with the extra controller, because it has more stuff, and I think it's a little bit more state-of-the-art for what they're doing with these mini arcade cabinets. I give that an 8.5, and even though I prefer the game of Tempest, I'd give the Tempest cabinet an 8 out of 10. And great job, RepliCade. These are wonderful. Okay, you guys, that is going to do it for our show today. I told you we were packed. Oh, we've got something? Oh, yeah, Kurt, I didn't ask you what you think, man.
I like it. Street Fighter is not a game I'm familiar with. I've played it maybe twice in my life.
Yeah.
But no, I really like this. The only thing is, the computer keeps choosing Blanca on every match I've had with it.
Yeah, and it's kicking your ass?
Yeah.
And it's hard to get accustomed to playing with these little tiny controls, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
But you do. Yeah. And then suddenly you're pulling off all the moves, which is, that's crazy. It's the fact that you can get all of these moves down and pull these things off with these little tiny controls. I haven't tested the durability. I haven't tried to rank on the thing. I did notice that when I got into a match on Street Fighter on the arcade cabinet, when I got right into a fight, I tilted the whole thing because it's tiny. You get into all that stuff. Johnny Dark, you rock. Have I received a review code for The Outer Worlds? Can't wait for that game. I have not, but something tells me that it will arrive any minute now, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. I can't believe that these games that I've been anticipating and waiting for all year long, this is when they're all starting to come out. I can't believe I'm playing Luigi's Mansion 3. But I'll have thoughts on The Outer Worlds soon for you guys. I'll have more concrete and complete thoughts on Luigi's Mansion 3. I'll have thoughts on the new Call of Duty and the new Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order. There's lots of good stuff still to come. And it's been a good year. Don't forget the stuff that came out early in the year, too. I tweeted about that the other day. We've had a lot of good games this year. All right, you guys, that does it for our episode of EP Live today. We will be back with a brand new episode of EP Live on Monday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll fill you guys in on Monday on who our guest is going to be. Until then, have yourselves an amazing weekend. Thank you all for your support, and don't forget, you got to play forever.